Hey, it's Meghann and this is the Limerick Post Show and I'm joined by John Keogh of Sporting Limerick to chat all about the weekend's action. Of course, the Munster Hurling final, the minors kicking off against Clare at 11:30 and then of course the big one kicking off at 2 p.m, Limerick versus Tipperary. And of course it's all happening in the LIT Gaelic grounds. John, first off, home advantage. Surely there's something in that.
You'd like to think so, Meghann. John Kiley was saying yesterday at his press conference that home advantage is only home advantage if you make it a home advantage. So Limerick did that against Clare. You have to get the crowd behind you. Number one, they're up against a Tipperary team that will have no bother coming to Limerick and try and knock Limerick off their perch in a sense. So absolutely, they're going to have a full house. The majority of which will be Limerick. It's just the way it is. So it's up to the players and the team to give the fans something to shout about, and no doubt they will.
Let's talk about the last encounter between Tipperary and Limerick. I think a lot of shocked Limerick fans around. I suppose they're getting another chance at it. But what did you make of that last game?
Yeah, it was a lot's been made about the changes that John Kiley made in the lead up to the game. All in all, outside of that, it was a flat performance, and that was the real disappointing thing. The players that came in are serious players anyway. Limerick, everyone's been talking very much about Limerick's much vaunted talent they have to bring on from the bench during games. A few of them players got their starts. It didn't work out. They were beaten by the better team on the day. People could argue that Tipperary could have won by more on the day. Was it a case of tipping that much better than Limerick, or Limerick just not showing up? I think it was a case of Limerick putting in a poor enough flat performance all over the field. It has to be said, they were beaten. Limerick will be at full strength, we'd imagine, this Sunday. So look, I expect, and John Kiley was saying this as well yesterday, I expect both teams to go up, but Limerick have to bring it up to a few levels from where they were the last day. It was, for any Limerick fan watching that, they know that wasn't a true Limerick team. Yeah. It wasn't the Limerick team that won the All-Ireland last year. It wasn't the Limerick team that played against Waterford and Clare this year. And it wasn't the Limerick team that won the league this year either. So look, he's expecting a big performance. Tipperary are going to be without a couple of key players due to injury. Limerick don't seem to have too many injury problems going in. A couple of knocks and niggles is what he described it as. It's just set up for an absolute humdinger, really.
Do you think though maybe it was better that Limerick lost against Tipperary last week, because it just kind of maybe set them up for a hungrier game, and as I said again, home advantage. So they're going to come out into that field, they're going to want to show the fans of Limerick and the people of the GA community all across Ireland that they are not just a one-trick pony, that they have it in them to win again.
It's a tricky one. Like, the perception is there that Limerick weren't too unhappy to lose that game. They knew they were probably going to get into a Munster final anyway. If Cork had beaten Clare, they could have been in third position. There's lots of subplots, subtext, everything like that. This Limerick team doesn't go out to lose any game. Yeah. They go to win. He again, just harping back to John Kiley's press conference last night. He said when it was that very question was put to him by one of the journalists there, that Clare were a bit unhappy that Limerick didn't put in everything they had, and he said we go out to win every game. Yeah. He said everyone's talking about this, me rotating players and this, and looking at the way training has gone since that game, he feels he probably should have rotated more players. Limerick were out for the third week in a row. Tipperary had 2 weeks preparation leading into that game. You know, it naturally, it has to take it out of you. You're putting in a serious amount of intensity into them wins over Waterford and Clare, where Limerick went hell for leather for the whole game, for both games. They didn't let up against Waterford when they were 10-15 points up. They certainly didn't against Clare. So there is going to be a fall off on that, and the fall off was that flat performance against Tipperary. So I certainly don't subscribe to Limerick trying to wangle their way into third place in the competition and trying to go the handy route. The handiest route is to win the Munster final. You've no qualifiers, you've no quarterfinals. You have a break where you can let the players off for a week or two, leave them. The high intensity training drops. You know, Limerick are going out to win every game is my point, really. And that's really the bottom line. And
they're on the brink of making history here now as well if they do win on Sunday. So it's incredible, but it's for Limerick and the GA. But then that's an awful lot of pressure on the guys themselves. But I think the one thing I've noticed with the Limerick hurlers, and from watching interviews and seeing them play and seeing them out and about, is that they don't really buy into all this pressure that people are putting on them. They shy away from social media. They don't seem to kind of get into watch all the media and what everyone's saying about them, which is something I think that is really standing to them as young players as well and performers.
Absolutely, Meghann. You know, you've you have a group of players in the main that have come up together and they've been successful together from under 14s to win an All-Ireland last year. So that group of players, are used to winning.
Yeah.
So they're confident in their own ability from a very young age. That manifests itself with how they act off the field and on the field. Very small thing that some people highlighted. Bonner Maher was stretchered off in the last game. Very serious cruciate ligament injury. So I saw a lot of tweets during the game and after the game about how, to a man, every person in Limerick management clapped him off. Every player clapped him off. You know, small little things like that don't always get highlighted. But that's the type of people this group of lads are. And that all comes from the management. But it comes from the players. They know how to act. They know how to behave themselves. They enjoyed their All-Ireland victory, and rightly so, last year. But everyone commented after that how this Limerick team behaved themselves.
Yeah.
With humility. They won. You know, I would have been, if I'd won an All-Ireland, I know what way I would have reacted. But going back to what you're saying about how important this game is for Limerick and pressure, they're not weighed down by the history of Limerick hurling. They showed that last year. They made a comment of it. We're not weighed down by history. Tom Morrissey gave a brilliant speech after the beat Kilkenny in the All-Ireland quarter-final last year about that very fact. So you're going into a Munster final, and very few of this Limerick team were part of the Limerick team in 2013 when Limerick last won the Munster Championship. Declan Hannon, Shane Dowling, Nicky Quaid and Tom Condon. The rest of the lads have no Munster medal. They're hungry, as you said. They're hungry to win everything they're in. Will that be a huge factor? I think it will be, but they certainly won't be feeling added pressure of Limerick's history and finals and whatever else.
I think it's safe to say that it's going to be an absolutely cracking game of hurling. And I think as well, the weather now this week, the heat wave, I think both teams will be kind of out there getting themselves adjusted to that the heat and the sweat and everything to prepare themselves for Sunday. Because if that sun shines, you're going to need a lot of players on the bench ready to come on.
100%. And that very much could be where the game is won and lost. And there's no question Limerick have a better bench than Tipperary, no matter what team Limerick put out to start. You mentioned the weather. It's a huge factor. 6 years ago when Limerick beat Cork in the Munster final, it was 30-degree heat at the LAT Gaelic grounds. It was a scorching day. Cork had a man sent off very early in that game, and Limerick took full advantage to win that game the way that I think it was 6 or 7 points in the end. Look, if it is that warm, it's definitely going to play a factor. Does that play into Limerick hands a little bit? I think it does.
Perfect stuff. John Keogh, Sporting Limerick, thank you so much for chatting to the Limerick Post today. And all we can say is Ganairi Liv Galere, and let's hope that Limerick take home the spoils, and we're all celebrating. And when I chat to you next, we'll be preparing for an All-Ireland final. Thank you so much. And remember, it's the Limerick Post, keeping Limerick posted.